Welcome to the Insight podcast. Today, my guest is Dan Fitzpatrick. Dan is a former teacher who is now empowering educators to benefit from artificial intelligence. He's the author of the best-selling book, The AI Classroom, The Ultimate Guide to Artificial Intelligence in Education. I talked to Dan about the role AI will be playing in our lives very soon, people's concerns around AI, how educators can use tools like Midjourney, ChatGTP, and others, and much more. Enjoy the episode. Dan, is AI about to destroy the world? Is that what's about to happen?
It's a good question. I think if you watch the news or any kind of TV program at the moment, you'd think it was about to drastically change the world and even destroy the world. I don't think so. I think it's a difficult question, isn't it? Because who knows what's going to happen and how powerful this technology is going to become. But I don't think it's helpful for us as educators, as people who are going to have to utilize this technology, get to grips with it, to delve into that question so much in terms of that it hinders what we do and hinders the benefits that we can gain from it. I think it's certainly going to be very, very powerful. It's certainly going to. I was just reading a report this morning actually that was saying how much money I think it was Google have got to put into this over the next few years, and then it was making correlations between how much money's been spent on it already and how far it's gone. So it was kind of projecting that it's actually going to get. We're going to be living in a wild world over the next few years, and hopefully it'll settle down. I think I often compare this kind of time to late 90s internet. So if anyone could, I think I'd just started secondary school in 97, so I was about 10, 11, 12 years old around that time. But the internet was a bit of a wild west. There was Google didn't exist, so there was no robust search. We had basic browser, basic email, and all of a sudden, every company who had the ability was starting to create websites and create businesses online and figure out how to turn this into something profitable and produce services. When I suppose it's one of the benefits of capitalism is that when businesses want to be profitable and make some money, they most of the time, I like to think, create something that's good for their customers. So we got some amazing user experiences and capabilities, and Google popped up, and we had that kind of .com bubble. But it was a wild west. There wasn't much regulation. There was. I often ask people when I'm giving talks who used I forgot the name of it now. That's
like Napster and places.
Napster.
I don't know.
So who used Napster and you always get a few people put their hands up, and I'm like, caught you
fully illegal.
Yeah, we were literally ripping off music and downloading other people's work without paying for it. But it was the Wild West, and there wasn't that much regulation. Nobody really knew, was this because technically it was peer-to-peer sharing of files, so nobody really knew if this was stealing or if it was just sharing, and then things settled down after a few years, and regulation came out, the law caught up, and so on. And I think we're in that time at the minute where it's the Wild West, but saying that, it's very different. So we've got some very well-established companies who are creating products and putting them out. So there's a big difference there. But also, I think this technology is going to go a lot faster than it did. And the internet went fast. I mean, if you think 1997, fast forward 10 years to 2007, in just 10 years, if you think, let's rewind 10 years, that's 2013. That feels like yesterday, 2013. So in just 10 years, from 97 to 2007, we went from basic internet. I mean, I think I was reading something the other day that was it the kind of graphic interface of computers and the internet only came in with the Windows version in 1993. So before that, it was all text-based. So we literally start getting graphics on our screen in 93. 97 starts this kind of boom in the internet. And then 10 years later, Steve Jobs is standing on the stage introducing the iPhone, which is the stable of our technology that we have today, mobile technology, cloud-based technology. So we moved very fast. I think the worrying, it's also quite exciting thing is that this technology is going to go even faster. And it comes down to one main reason, really. And that is all technological advancement has been based on humans up to now, whereas this technology can learn for itself. And so, and if something is learned for itself and then advancing its capability based on that learning, we're going to get a bit like when you put money into savings or you invest in the stock market. That knowledge and that capability is going to start compounding. So we might start off a bit slow, but I think within a few years, the takeoff of this technology is going to be quite incredible, and that does lead to people like Ray Kurzweil, who was a head engineer at Google, who wrote a book called The Singularity back in 2006, I think it was. He says that by 2045, I think he said, we will get to a point called the singularity where AI will be more advanced than all human intelligence put together. And when we get to that point, it's kind of like we don't understand what's happening with AI. So in the minute, engineers and coders and whoever can understand how AI works. But when you get to that level, AI is going to be coming to conclusions. It's going to be producing things where it's going to be difficult for even humans to grasp how it's come to those conclusions because it's going to be so advanced. And then he argues as well, we start integrating this technology into our biology, which to be fair is already happening. I'm making myself sound really learned here by saying how much I've read. I don't normally read this much, but I was reading an article yesterday about how AI is helping people to move their legs again who've been paralyzed and so on. So we're already integrating it into biology, but so I guess to answer your question, is it going to destroy the world? I'm hopeful, which probably might be a bit naive considering the maliciousness of the global power structure. But I'm hopeful that it can make our lives a lot better and really help us. We'll go through some difficult times, I'm sure, to get there. But I'm hopeful that our lives, our work lives, our learning life, our home life will be boosted by this technology. But we have to do it with intent, I think. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from how social media was infiltrated the world, to use that language. We just kind of let it happen. And we just let big tech kind of drive the change there. And to be fair, I mean, a tool like Facebook has helped overturn dictatorships around the world. It's been an absolutely phenomenally positive tool. But also, we to look at the dark side, we've got school children taking their lives because of this technology. So it's an interesting one. But I think whatever we do, however we advance it, there needs to be serious intent behind what we're doing, and hopefully that's a positive intent.
Yeah, it feels like as you kind of mentioned, that throughout history, we've had these scares, the internet and video games and music, MTV and stuff like that, where people have gone, this is going to fry children's brains. This is a disaster. And then, we've come out the other side, and hopefully we learn a lot of lessons from those. And the interviews I've listened to of some of the people in this field, very much at the forefront, they seem like, I don't know if this is me being naive as well, they seem like they've got good intentions. They want this to be a positive thing for humanity and to make people's lives easier. So yeah, that gives me hope. But it's interesting that there are lots of people that are very nervous.
Those are the people who are putting their voice on camera or in print. I'm sure there's people playing around with this technology. I mean, just think I don't want to go conspiracy theorist, but I'm sure within some military complex somewhere there's military people who are playing with this technology and seeing how they can use it to effectively kill people.
Of course,
I mean that's quite blunt, but I'm certain it is happening somewhere.
Which is it's a horrible thought. Yeah, absolutely. So people listening, and even me myself, like
sorry, that was a nice note to really stop on, wasn't it?
It's fine. It's fine.
When I said I was hopeful before, it's went downhill since then.
It's fine. It's fine. But some of the things that you've said, some people listening, and me included, are kind of like, whoa, like it's mind blowing. And so maybe we can take a step back and like understand it a bit better. Like I don't fully understand. Like you talk about how some of these programmers, we might get to a point where they don't understand how it works. Is that right? But like at the moment, what is going on here? How does an AI tool work? And I guess we're talking about things like, is it that people are excited at the moment because of things like ChatGTP, aren't they? And other things that are, if I understand correctly, large language models. So if you could explain what that is and how it works, and maybe then if we could talk about, why is everyone excited all of a sudden? Why is so many people talking about it since like, what was it, like March this year, where it just seemed to like blow up on Twitter and everything, and everyone's talking about it. Do those questions make sense? Is that right?
And I'll not go too technical because I'm not a technical person really. I'm a teacher at heart, so I mainly do the application side of it. But I think we've had AI for a long time. I mean, if you had a smartphone in your pocket, like I mentioned Steve Jobs with the iPhone earlier, for the best part of the last 10 years, you've had AI in your pocket. Companies haven't tended to overly amplify that to consumers because it's a bit boring, to be fair. And consumers mainly just want to know, is it going to benefit me or not? They don't want to know the technical side of how Netflix suggests programs to you based on your watch history, or Amazon suggests products to buy based on what you've bought previously, or your camera. If you've got a decent smartphone, the AI in your camera is phenomenal. The way it adjusts to the light is artificial intelligence. The way it adjusts to surroundings and helps to make your picture better and apply certain effects and filters. And I mean, I've got a Google phone, and the fact that you can take a picture, then just circle somebody standing in the background and they disappear, and it's phenomenal. And so we've had AI for quite a while. The thing is, what happened last year with ChatGPT was a new type of AI that consumers weren't too familiar with. So, and to be honest, it's not new. It's been worked on since kind of 2016. I think OpenAI, who are the company who created ChatGPT, started. And they were very intentional about what they were doing. They said what they were doing. They were going to try and train large language models, which is essentially an AI or a computer that they feed so much information. In fact, ChatGPT 3, which is the free version, if you go on, that's the version you get access to, is trained on about 300 billion words worth of information, which I like to tell people, if you read about 100 words every 30 seconds, which is like the average reading time if you're reading a book, if you read non-stop, take you about, I think it's something like 2,500 years to read all of that information. A ChatGPT 4, which is the newer version, it would take you about 7,000 years to read all the words worth of information that's trained on. So they train it on a lot of information. And same with the image models that you see as well, where you type in a command and it creates an image for you, trained on hundreds of millions of different images that it learns from. So, and then what they do is they essentially, a bit like a brain, they try to create a neural network between all the different bits of information that are in there, based on probability, really. So the amount of time, so that 300 billion words worth of information, obviously it's not unique bits of information. There'll be a lot of overlap. There'll be a hell of a lot of overlap. So what it does is it works out the probability, not on a knowledge level, but on almost a word level. Sometimes it's a half a word level, where it works out the probability of then, if you ask it a question, what will be the next word in the sequence to answer it based on the probability of all the information it's got. So it's not, I mean, a lot of people like to say it's not intelligent. It's not artificial, and it's not intelligent. But the human brain can't do that. We don't have access to that much information instantly. So that's where its power comes from. And that's important because what it does then is it uses that to then generate new data and new content. So the type of AI we're used to, probably pre end of 2022, tended to, and I'm being very simplistic here, but tended to give insights. So insights into data. Whereas this type of AI, what it does is, and it's the reason it's called generative AI, and it generates new content and new data. And it's got a massive knowledge base to be able to do that. And anyone who's ever typed into ChatGPT or Google Bard or whatever you use will see just asking it a basic question about pretty much anything in the world. And it will give a quite a good, robust answer to that, a knowledgeable answer. Some people like to say it doesn't. It does. I mean, when it first was released, it did make a lot of errors, very subtle errors. So like it would be like 90% of what you asked would be 100% correct, and then 10% might be a bit vague or might give a false bit of information in there. And the technical term for that is hallucinating, because these tools are designed to please. They're designed to give you the answer. So if it doesn't know the answer, it'll make a bit of a leap and try and come up with an answer for it. And sometimes they're wrong. Very good use case of seeing that is you ask ChatGPT for a reference or a citation for what it's saying. And look, last time I tried it anyway, it makes up a reference. It tries to, because it doesn't, its job isn't to give you, it isn't to copy and paste. That's not its job. Yeah. Its job is to, it would be like right now, if I'm saying a lot of things here, and if you just stopped me and went, Dan, can you give me a reference for that? I'd be like, well, I can't like give you the page number in the book. And the date. But I might be able to string together, I might be able to go, well, I think it was this person, I think they teach at this university. I might be able to pull a vague sense of a reference out. And it's kind of what ChatGPT will do in that circumstance. And then any gaps it has, it'll just fill it in. So it'll just make up a page number, for example. So because it wants to give you an answer. So that's what it does. And so obviously you need to check it. So when I'm working with teachers, I'm like, you can't just rely on this. You got to check it out. You got to make sure that everything is factual, especially if you're going to use it to teach students. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. That's how it's different. Yeah. So kind of late last year OpenAI, by the way, Google have been working on this, few other companies working on large language models, but they very much kept it behind the scenes and didn't. And I think it was early last year, OpenAI decided to stick a chatbot on top of their large language model, almost like a bit like a window into this computer system, this AI system, where you could chat to it and get answers back. And they decided, they trialed it for a few months and then decided end of November last year to release it to the public. And it wasn't an altruistic endeavor by them. It wasn't like they went, right, this is powerful technology, the world needs this. They put it out as a prototype because it, a bit like what we were saying before with the compounding of knowledge that AI gains for itself, it learns from the conversations. Right, so they wanted to open it up so that it could learn. And by the way, if you're kind of horrified by that, we do this all the time. If you ever had to go on a website and confirm you're a human and then tick the pictures of you know how you get like a grid and it's click the traffic lights within the grid. Yeah. What you're doing there is you're training AI. So the chances are that what you're doing there is a company is paid, so probably a self-driving car company have paid to have that in there, because what it does is it allows for the purpose of the website or the company that provides that security solution, it allows them to detect whether you're human or not. But also what it does is it trains the AI to know what traffic lights are.
I did not know.
So that's why they're always a bit blurry. They're not like clear pictures of traffic lights, because the AI can clearly identify a clear picture. But if it's a blurry in the distant picture, you as a human, you're able to go, yeah, that's a traffic light, click it. The AI didn't know that before, now it knows it. So it's you trade it. So we're trading AI all the time, to be honest. But I think that's a good thing, because then it understands how we're thinking, what we know, what we want from it, and I think it'll make it better. It does pose issues in terms of privacy. So you might not want to be putting sensitive data in there. And in fact, I think early this year, Samsung the company had to issue a very stern warning to their code engineers, because they were putting their code into ChatGPT to look for errors and to help, and asking ChatGPT to help them with it, not realizing that their data could be used, and that obviously the code is intellectual property of Samsung. So there are in a school, you one of the things I always say to teachers is, use it, but don't put student names in, don't connect. It's good. It's like good common sense stuff when you're using any tools that could take your data, isn't it? Don't link it to specific students, don't link it to names. So but all that needs ironed out. Like I said, like going back to what I said before about being in the Wild West, that needs ironed out. We need regulation there. Data protection laws that we currently have are probably out of date now, because like, for example, before UK left the EU, we had GDPR. So GDPR said that all data, and I'm not sure if we still abide by this with our current data policies, but all data can't leave the EU. So that was part of something being GDPR compliant, which means it's safe to use. I don't know how that's going to work anymore, because in order for an AI system to be really intelligent, it needs to learn from its sensors or from data all over the world. So, for example, if I'm driving a self-driving car down the road, and the car comes across a situation where it could knock somebody over, for example, another car that uses the same AI system might have encountered that issue in Tokyo 2 months ago, and in Finland 3 months before that, and so can learn from the previous situation. So you want that data to be shared across the globe. Really, obviously there needs to be policy around that, but we live in interesting times where the policy, the laws that keep us protected probably need to be updated, but also kept in balance so that they still protect us. I can't remember what your original question was, but I hopefully
it was around how something like ChatGTP works and the kind of implications. And so you've completely answered it.
To put it in a basic way, it's you ask it a question, it uses its very large database to make connections, a bit like a human brain, and helps you produce an answer. And it means as teachers as well, you can type in create a lesson plan for me, you can type in create a resource, you could ask it for some advice about something, and it pulls on that information and is able to offer you most of the time quite a good answer or quite a good resource.
Well, let's get into that then, because I'm wondering whether there's lots of people out there that are kind of using it like a Google search bar. Do you think that's right? That people are kind of typing in something and thinking that it's like typing into Google, where of course it's not. It's so much more than that. So how do we avoid that? Like, because I've had a little play around with it, and then I'm thinking, actually, am I using this in the most effective way, or am I just using it like a Google search bar? So how could I change that? And then also let's get into, how can a teacher like myself, a primary school teacher teaching a year 3 class, like what are some of the practical things I could start doing this year that could be really useful for me and of course for the children?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's anything wrong with using it like a search tool.
Okay.
But I think probably just to be aware that it's not going to provide websites. So I think still, because Google and other search engines were created so that you could have an index of pretty much every website out there. So you could type in a keyword and it would find the websites where those keywords are mentioned and so on. And because we haven't had anything better, Google has kind of morphed into a place where you just ask any question. And what it'll do is it'll pull back and give you information from websites or direct you to a website and give you the answer. So and a model like ChatGPT can do that really well without having to give you the website. So I don't think search engines are going to go away. And in fact, you can already see Bing and Google trying to merge the two. So Bing's already done it. Google, I think, are in beta mode at the minute and are about to release Google Bard within their Google search. It's still, I don't know how it'll play out, because it's still like if you use Bing, you've got like the AI bit at the top, then the website's underneath. I don't know if that'll be the kind of final iteration of how we go forward with this or not. I personally, I don't like it. I don't know why. It just still feels a bit clunky to me.
For me, like I don't know what to do with it at this point. Yeah, I use Bing and it kind of pops up, and I'm like, well, what do I do differently here? And I'm just not sure what to do.
I think we're getting to the point where it's two different tools, really. I think the search engine will find you a website. The AI will actually compile an answer. I think it's two different. Although they might a bit like a Venn diagram crossover in some respect. I think they're two different things. So I don't think there's a problem. I'm in this business, and I still go to Google, search something, and then think, what am I doing? I could ask ChatGPT that and probably get a better answer. So I think there's a mindset thing there. There's that it's going to take a while to, and also although OpenAI have done a lot of work in making ChatGPT a usable, user-friendly product, at the end of the day, it's still a prototype, basic product that isn't really a great user experience. Like Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said a couple of months ago, he said ChatGPT is a horrible product, and he created it. And I think they're just surprised because, like I said earlier, they put it out as a prototype. It took off. It became the fastest growing platform in history. And a lot of these tools are still prototype. If anyone uses Midjourney to create images, Midjourney's still just a bot within a Discord channel, which is a chat room, like a place you can, and it's mainly used by gamers, so they can chat when they're gaming. So, and it works within the chat of one of those. So these are still very much experimental prototypes, but because of the interest and the popularity over the last few months, they've become huge billion-dollar companies, and they're still using. The AI behind it's very complex, but the platforms they're using to present it to the consumer is still very basic, and that's what I think that puts a lot of people off. So, I just did a tutorial last week around Midjourney, trying to show teachers how to use Midjourney, because it's not getting it set up isn't a great user experience. So you've got to go through a few hurdles. Not many teachers use Discord, so they've got to set up a Discord channel. So they don't understand what that is. So they've got to get their heads around that, and then they've got to go and do a Midjourney account and then connect the two. It's just too clunky. Right. It's not great. So I think we need to. The landscape needs to settle a bit. We need it almost to be a few years' time. And it's interesting because it's not like the Wild West and there's just a few nerds out there playing with this technology. If you think like early, what is what's the teen decades? What would you call it? You got the noughties, and I suppose we're in the 20s now, which sounds weird, but but in that decade anyway, you had lots of nerds playing around with both, like cryptocurrency, for example. In cryptocurrency, I don't use it that much as an example because I don't think many people are in that world anyway. But it's a good analogy or a good similarity, because cryptocurrency is very famous for being not very user friendly, and you've got to have a bit of technical detail to set it up. And kudos to those who did early days, because they're multi-millionaires right now. Just for learning how to set up an account. So, but I think we're still in those days where we're waiting for bigger companies to make this user friendly, and that's happening. So Microsoft are bringing out Copilot. Google's about to bring out Duet, which essentially, and most people on the planet, I guess, either use Microsoft Office or Google Workspace as their main kind of office tools. So it's going to be integrated into all those tools very, very quickly. It is starting to be. I don't know if anyone uses Canva, which is a tool I love.
We've got Microsoft Designer though now, haven't we? Have you seen that? Which is like their free equivalent, which I think is going to get better and better. I had a little play around with it. But you mentioned about Midjourney. So that's images. Is that right? So a teacher might, what might a teacher do with that? Like you said, it's a bit difficult to get started, but if we kind of overcome that first hurdle, how could I use Midjourney? That's
a good question. I've got a half an hour video on that if anyone wants to have a look at it.
But you're talking about to make it easier for teachers, and that's your work, isn't it? That's what you're doing. So people like you are trying to, break down these barriers and mean that teachers are accessing it. So this is why I'm really excited to talk to you and learn something like Midjourney. What could I do?
And in Midjourney, it's not that obvious, because you can create amazing bits of art with it. You can create photographic quality images, like absolutely, like you would think that you were looking at real photographs in high definition, but they're not. They're completely created by AI. And when I say that, I'm not talking about like a photoshopped head in another image or something. I'm talking like on a pixel level, they are uniquely generated by artificial intelligence. So I suppose as teachers, what are the benefits? There's not loads of benefits at the minute, but if you, for example, if you want to, as teachers, we use a lot of clip art. Is that a thing now?
Less so now, I think.
stock photos, Google images. We put it into our presentations. We put it into our resources, because we want to make the learning experience better for our students and more interactive and more palatable, I guess. So you could use something like Midjourney to create your own unique images. Right. And you tell it exactly what you want in the image; it will create it. And for teachers who like to be creative in that way, it's a phenomenal tool, because like you could spend hours. I know we talked about this technology can save time, but if you're a bit geeky like me, you can while away the hours just playing with this stuff and producing some amazing images. So you could put it in your resources. You can then take those images. One of the other tutorials I've got is how you take an image that you've created with Midjourney, and using just 3 other AI tools, no technical ability needed whatsoever, in 10 minutes, just by logging into 3 other AI tools, you can turn a Midjourney image into a video that talks.
I was going to say, is Dan going to say a video? And no way he's going to say a video. No way. Seriously.
Yeah, so, I mean, wow. I've been doing this since January, really. So there's I've got a full thread on it on I was going to say Twitter there. It's X now, isn't
it? Yeah.
I noticed they changed it. So the retweet button, when you click it now, it doesn't say retweet, it says repost. Yeah, it's weird. But so essentially there's 4 tools. There's Midjourney, ChatGPT. There's a tool called play.ht, and there's a tool called D-ID. You just create free accounts with them. Some of them you have to start paying after you use your credits up. If you're cheap like me, I just create a new account every time. Nice. There's a little trick, actually. Someone taught me this recently and it blew my mind. Where, so my email address is dan@theaieducator.io. If you take your email address, I don't know if you know this, but if you take it after the Dan, if I put a plus,
plus
and then
1,
a number,
plus 2,
so it thinks the platform thinks it's a new email address, and the emails still go back to my email.
Good tip.
My mind.
Really good tip.
saved me a lot of money.
Yeah.
So normally, so you can do that, create some free accounts, and then essentially what we did was I decided to, because it all came from the fact that you could, with ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT to be a character. So I think the very first one I did was I asked ChatGPT to be Winston Churchill. So you just say to it, I want you to be Winston Churchill. I want you to answer like he would. I want you to use the limited knowledge set that Winston Churchill would have had. Right. And it does a really good job. So I did this with a history teacher, and everything that it was coming out with was very accurate. And it was really helping. We found with the students that we tried it with, it was really helping them, not just with knowledge, but build different skills. So we found that students were asking this virtual Churchill things like, do you have any regrets over what you did?
Like proper metacognition, like thinking deeper questions. I like that.
And and it helps build that critical thinking. Yeah. Actually, if Churchill himself and brings a character from a book, which is essentially who Churchill is to many students, a character in a textbook, brings him to life. He's got thoughts, he's got opinions, and it might not be 100% what Churchill thought, but it does a really good job of using the public statements of Churchill and trying to simulate that.
Right.
And also asking, I think we had a student ask it, were you scared during the Second World War? So this student was building empathy with Churchill. through that question. So phenomenal. So we were doing that, and then we thought, well, obviously, as this is just a chatbot, how do we bring this more to life? In the example we used, we didn't use Churchill, we used Henry VIII, and we asked Henry VIII a question. We asked ChatGPT to be Henry VIII, asked it a question, looked at it. It was from a historical, factual point of view, it was a perfect answer. We then logged into a tool called play.ht, which is a website. You just copy and paste the text from ChatGPT into there, and it'll create. You tell it what type of voice you want, and it'll use an AI. It creates an audio track of that. Then you just click download. Downloads that audio file onto your computer. We went into Midjourney, created a picture of Henry VIII with Midjourney. You don't necessarily have to do that. You could just go to Google Images and find a picture of Henry VIII. You don't have to create your own image. And then we took it over to a website called D-ID. And what you do on that website is you simply upload an image and you upload an audio file, and it turns it into an animation. So it detects the face in the picture, detects the mouth and everything, and it turns it into an animation of where that character is saying those words. And it's pretty realistic. In fact, it's really realistic. It looks very real. So we were able to turn kind of that ChatGPT mind that was pretending to be Henry VIII into an actual video of Henry VIII talking, and that took 10 minutes. That's amazing. Literally the time I've taken to describe what we did, you can do it with no technical skills, apart from being able to log into a website, being able to copy and paste, and being able to click upload and click download. That's literally the technical skills you need to be able to do this. So Midjourney, although it's quite cool in using it on its own, once you start connecting it and smashing it with other AI apps, you're going to get some phenomenal content. And in fact, I noticed the other day, I forget what the name of the website is, but there's an actual business who've essentially taken that concept. I'm not saying they've taken it from me, but they've obviously just had the idea themselves. And they've created bots where students, or anyone, I guess, can talk to historical figures. And they just got VC investment worth $100 million.
What's VC?
For that company.
VC investment? What's that?
Venture capital.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So they just raised $100 million for their business.
Wow.
And it's just based on what I've just described to you. And you can do that. You can do that by logging into a few tools. I'm
thinking of like story writing lessons that I've done with my class in the past. And maybe we've taken a character from a book, fictional or historical.
Yeah.
And we've got the kids to do, the hot seating and said, you come to the front, and we ask them questions. And of course, when you do that with 7 and 8 year olds, they're like, how did you feel about this part of the story? It can sometimes be a bit like pulling teeth. It's a bit difficult because, of course, they've only been on this planet for 7 years, and we're asking them to kind of empathize and connect the dots and think about all these different things. But if, like you said, you could instead get their questions that they want to ask that character, like we say, like factual or fictional, and then do all of this stuff that you've just said, and then that character can, I guess, say, hello 3A, I hear you've got some questions for me, here are my answers. Like, that would the kids would absolutely love it.
And to take that one step further, DID, the company the website that animates it, have now got the capability where you can ask it in real time, and it gives you the answers in real time.
Right,
so you don't have to like pre-plan it or anything. You can literally have the avatar on the screen. You click the mic button, ask it a question, and then it uses like the brain of ChatGPT to answer you back. And I think that's where this technology is going. We're going to be able to have live conversations and with this technology. And I think it means, like, I don't know if you've got I've got a Google Home Hub here, and it already, when I talk to it and ask it a question, it feels like ancient technology, because I'm like, what? Like, when I'm really used to talking to ChatGPT every day, and like, this is redundant technology. So once we start pairing that up, and there are companies doing that. There's a company called Humane in America, and they did a TEDx video about 2 months ago. You could find it online, where they're producing their own AI assistants. So there's a lot of people predicting that within a year or so, we're going to start seeing kind of, I guess, the next revolution of maybe what a smartphone is. Maybe it's something additional. Maybe it's what a smartphone turns into, but where we have an AI assistant with us all the time that listens. I mean, a lot of people start getting scared at this point, and I understand why, but it listens to everything we're saying, the conversations we're having. It can then at the end of the day give us a summary of conversations we've had. It can start making connections for us. We can ask it. So a bit like if I ask my Google Assistant something, if I'm asking it something very basic and I'm asking it in a very specific way, it tends to give me an all right answer. But with something like ChatGPT integrated into a virtual assistant like this, you could literally just, I was about to say that you don't even have to be literate to use it, and I think that's an interesting use case in itself for those who maybe can't or who've got learning difficulties to use these tools. That's
or visual impairment or something.
Absolutely.
Like that.
I mean, and we're already seeing that. I think there's a video going around at the minute actually where someone, I think they've designed it for people who are deaf, and they put the glasses on, and within the glasses, it listens to the conversation and puts the words up within the glasses for you, so you can track the conversation in real time. So we're going to start seeing some amazing technology that's going to help a lot of people, and that's why, return to the start of the conversation, that's why I'm hopeful. I think it's going to positively change a lot of people's lives. But yeah, having these AI assistants that can help us, that can keep track of things for us, can be a second brain really for us, and not just a second brain for storage, but a second brain for making intelligent connections and helping us keep track of our day. Like we're all going to have an intelligent personal assistant with us, really, if you want to have it.
That's what I was going to say. I hope you can turn it on and off, because some of the conversations I have with my friends, and
I know, and it's interesting because I really want one, and I think it would change my life. But I'm like, also, I don't know whether I should mention this or not. I'll not say it.
You could be talking about something that then, if a workplace heard about or something, or family, you wouldn't want them to know.
I was talking to someone recently. I just don't want the person to think I'm talking about them. But I mean, it's not a negative thing. But I was talking to someone recently who had some sunglasses on, and there were these glasses that, I don't know if you've seen them, but they have cameras in them. And all you have to do is press the button, and it records everything from their.
That makes me uneasy. That does make me uneasy.
Yeah, and I knew they had them because it was the first thing I noticed about them, because you can tell, because you can see the little camera, a bit like the camera hole on a phone. It looks a bit like that on the glasses. And I brought it up, so I knew they had them on, so they weren't doing it covertly or anything. But we were having a conversation, and I was talking away, and they pressed the button to record. And I felt a little bit uneasy. And I think I said that to them. So it's not like and I made a decision while we were talking that I didn't mind it. I was like, it made me feel a bit uneasy, but I reasoned with myself in my head while I was talking and thought, you know what, let them do it. A bit like we've been doing when we're chatting. Like if one of us has said something, we'll take a note and go, I'll look into that. So I get that. It's similar, but just a different way of doing it. But so I suppose that if we're going to have these AI assistants and we're having a coffee somewhere, I'm going to want to know, are you recording this? Is this going into an AI model for you to summarize?
The permission side is really important, isn't it? It's like, I was at the gym the other day, and sometimes I've recorded a workout at the gym, and it's a bit cringe, but sometimes I'll do it. But then I know that someone was recording themselves, and I was in their shot, and I was there first, and then they came in, started recording, and I'm in their shot, and I kind of went over and said, I'd rather not be in your video, to be honest. I don't want to be I don't want to be a big sweating mess in the background. That then
especially a lot of I'm overweight a bit, and if I'm at the gym, I'm feeling very vulnerable.
Exactly.
So I don't want to be in someone's video. So I get it completely. But yeah, good on you for going over and saying something. I don't think I would have had the balls to say that.
And I understand, I guess I'll walk out the door and I'll probably be very quickly on some CCTV, won't I? Like a home security system. And I get that we're probably being
But that's not going to go up on Facebook later, right? Instagram
exactly.
Later, don't you?
And so this is where it does make me a bit uneasy.
And we do have, if you're on a video call with someone and they're recording it, it comes up,
pops up, doesn't it? Yeah.
But how do you do that in a face-to-face conversation with someone?
Because
like,
people, so could so quickly be doing it kind of on the sly. We even see that already on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, where people have taken a video of someone without them knowing. And
I suppose, to be fair, you could have done that with a dictaphone for the last 30 years.
Yeah,
but I suppose there's a difference there, because that would have been seen as a very creepy thing to do. Whereas I think what we're probably concerned about more is the normalization of it. I guess.
Yeah.
Because anyone can record you covertly, but it's the normalization of that, which is, and I think, it's an interesting one, and I think that's why, again, going back to we're in the Wild West. We need to figure this out. What are we comfortable with? What are we not comfortable with? What is the law going to be comfortable with? Because is that even lawful, recording someone like that? So we've got a lot of things to iron out here.
Yeah,
we can, and I suppose probably unlike a lot of technology in the past, and this is I suppose a good thing and a bad thing. There's so many benefits to have from this technology now, even though it's not even a proper product, even though it's still prototype situation. And that's kind of what I do. Is I go into schools, universities, colleges around the world, and I'm very open, and I say, look, this technology is not perfect. You're going to need to learn a few skills. I mean, it's not as much as and not as scary as most people think. And a lot of it comes down to knowing how to have a clear communicated conversation, really, just like you would with a human being, because these chatbots can't read your mind, so you need to be very clear and you need to be very literate with what you're saying. But we can start we can start benefiting from this technology in a massive way right now if we know what we're doing. And I think that's a good thing, but I suppose the flip side of that is a lot of people could get left behind.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose I kind of say it as part of my job is trying to speak to as many teachers as possible. And I think probably about 95% of my resources I put out for free.
Well, this is what I was about to ask, because you've given some great context and definitely got me thinking about the implications, and given a very specific example of how a teacher could use it. But you've got resources out there. So how could people find those? Like, there's threads on Twitter, isn't there? Is there stuff on YouTube? Like,
I need to do more with YouTube, I think. I'm doing a recording with Google later today, and they sent me like a ring light, and it's here. I'm using it.
Nice.
And they've said to just keep it. So I'm like, I need to use this opportunity to like maybe start doing more YouTube stuff and create more stuff. It's just the time, really. But I put a lot of stuff out on Twitter, or what used to be Twitter, on X. That's kind of my main platform, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I've got what I tend to do is just put things out every day. If I'm thinking of creating a bit of content, I've got ideas I'm playing with, or if I want to showcase something, I'll put it out. And then every Sunday I put a newsletter out. So whenever I put a tweet or something out, or a LinkedIn post, I tend to say you can sign up to the newsletter. And it's not a sales. I'm not doing it like as a sales thing. It's more because that's where I can get in more depth away from kind of micro blogging on a social media platform. So every Sunday I work through the week, so tend to, on a Monday, try and come up with a seed of an idea, maybe tweet about it a few times during the week, try to get a glimpse of whether it's going to work as an idea or whether it's going to be beneficial. Then by the end of the week, I might have produced a resource around it, so like maybe a video tutorial video, quick video, or maybe a PDF download, crib sheet for it, because whatever it might be a tool or so on, or it might just be a thought piece. And then I try... I'd like to say by Thursday or Friday I've written it, but it's normally Saturday night. I'm sat down in front of the TV, pulling it all together, sticking it in the newsletter format, writing normally anywhere between 500 and 1,000 word kind of article where I go through some. So I've just finished doing like a bit of a series on how educational organizations can strategize around this and how they can prepare for the future and the future changes that are going to come. And then I normally kind of add in a resource, add in a recommendation, things like that. So yeah, that's where I get a bit more heavy and a bit more insightful. Well, hopefully insightful with my content. And then I've got a course which is a 3-hour. Kind of came from back in January, I started doing a lot of webinars because I was posting things and a lot of people would get in contact and say, can you do a webinar? And I got to the point where I was literally selling out every webinar. And I think I'd put it on for like £10 because I was like, I need to make it a bit worth my while spending time on it, but I don't want teachers to be thinking, oh, I need to go and get permission, fill out forms to pay for this at school. So it needed to be something where a teacher would just put their hand in the pocket and go, yeah, I can do that. So put that out. But yeah, it was just getting too much. I was literally doing 2 webinars a day, one in the middle of the night for an Asian or an American audience, one during the day for a UK audience. And I think it was only 2 weeks I did it for. And after 2 weeks, I was like, I need to just record it and put it out there. So I ended up recording it and it went from an hour to 3 hours because, as you can probably tell, I just talk and think of things and jump from one thing to another. So, and then I ended up taking that 3 hours content, chunking it down into small bits, putting some questions with it and things, and it's on my website as a course. So you can pay for that. But I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but everything I say in that 3 hours, I've said on Twitter or I've said in my newsletters, so you can go and find it. I suppose what you're paying for there is the convenience of it all being together.
All be together. And I know what that's like. Yeah, when it's all in one chunk, you just take so much from it. Like
exactly. Hours, and you've got it in a video format. You don't have to be reading lots of different bits.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot, and then the majority of my work now is I mean, I'm lucky enough to be at home at the minute, which is brilliant. But I spend a lot of time on the road now. I've just done a tour of Florida, so I went around Florida and spoke at different conferences and schools, universities. Recorded a TV program out there as well, which is weird.
Nice.
And then before that, did like a 2-week tour of England and Wales. Next week, I'm doing a bit of a tour of Dubai and Abu Dhabi for 10 days. So I'm in a very privileged position, but a lot of people want to know about this. They want to.
I think it shows the demand is there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think whereas I'm putting 95% of my content out for free because I want people to start using it, sometimes people want you to come in and actually go through it and make it more bespoke to them and their situation and go through it step by step, which is, I suppose, it's like proper learning, isn't it? You can go on YouTube, watch a video, and you can get a lot from that. And that's how I did most of my learning, to be honest. But someone in front of you and actually taking you through at your pace and helping you understand it in your context is something entirely different as a learning experience. So some people want that. I kind of see it as my mission, really. And again, I suppose like a bit like ChatGPT, it's not purely altruistic. I need to make a living. I've got a 2 and a 3-year-old and a fiance, and we need to live. So when people ask me to come and speak, I need to. I can't always do it for free, although I'd love to. But
you're providing something very valuable. So
but also I want people to be able to benefit from this because I genuinely believe that there's 2 sides of this coin of AI in education. There's the first side of the coin, which is the optimization of what we're already doing. And what I mean by that is it's the stuff you'll hear. It's the fact that it saves time, it makes you more efficient, can help you be creative. Like the examples I've given today are optimization of what you're already doing. I think that's a short-term endeavor and a much needed one. I mean, look at the education system in the UK at the moment; it's bursting at the seams, and I'm quite lucky. I get to speak to teachers all over the world, and it's no different in other countries. They're having recruitment problems, retention problems, funding problems. So the system definitely needs optimized and made better in the short term. But and hopefully we've gained some insight into that by this conversation, that actually if this technology is gonna massively change the world in the next few years, it's gonna change how people learn. It's gonna change where people go for their learning, and so the education system itself could be under threat. And I can get into this if you want, if you've got time, but I'll boil it down to a few minutes. But it comes down to this for me. I think the education system, or the education systems, has never had any major competition. Like, I don't know about you, but I grew up very humble background, council estates in Gateshead in the northeast of England. What you did was families had kids, and then kids went to the local primary school and went to the local secondary school. There wasn't really a choice there. There wasn't let's weigh up the benefits. It was literally that's where you went. And even the educational institutions that do have a bit of competition, and I'm thinking of colleges, universities, and independent schools, the competitions, there's not much between them. You go get a degree from one Sunderland uni, no offense Sunderland, but then you go and get a university degree from Oxford. There's not that much difference. What you're paying for, or what the difference is the
prestige.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, so that's what you're paying for. Two independent schools that happen to be in competition, they're not offering that much difference. Again, it's probably down to prestige. One of them probably has a better upmarket branding or whatever, or a reputation. And the same with colleges, really. There's not all that much difference. And I think that's about to change massively. I think non-traditional competition, empowered by artificial intelligence, is going to be huge. And we're already starting to see this. So we're seeing companies out of America, and I say companies because they're not traditional schools. They're actually private organizations and who are creating educational platforms. They're creating online schools, creating different ways to learn. There's a great one called Synthesis out of California. Josh Dahn runs that. I know Josh Dahn. Josh worked with Elon Musk to actually found this school. Great guy. The whole purpose of it is it's based on problem solving and collaboration. That's literally what they focus on, and they create their own games and programs, and they've just released an AI tutor to go alongside their curriculum. And they pitch it at an affordable price. But I mean, it's not going to be affordable to everyone, but it's nowhere near private school levels. So it maybe is a supplement to traditional education. That's certainly what I'm thinking about for my kids. There's going to be alternatives. There's going to be competition that we can't even think of at the moment. And in fact, I was talking to Gerd Leonhard, who is I think he styles himself as a futurist, but he writes loads of books. He's a German guy. He's world famous. He writes some amazing books. And he was on the EduFuturist podcast that I host, and he said he's sure that in the next few years, the next big global company, the next Google, as it were, is going to be an educational company, because there's just such a gap in the market there. Yeah. And it sounds strange to talk about it as a market, as a business, but those who think in those terms are going to start creating educational platforms and alternative education, and they're going to have money to do it. They're going to have industry insight. They're going to have the pressures of competition, so they're going to innovate fast. They're going to be a lot smaller than an education system, so they're going to be able to be agile and pivot and move and be relevant a lot sooner than an education system can. So we're about to see, I think, some major competition, which means that, to put it in very blunt terms, and I'm oversimplifying it, the education system has got to change or die in a way. And I'm not saying it would necessarily die out, but it would drastically be hindered. We need to start being strategic. We need to start learning lessons from businesses that at their heart are innovative and are agile and stay up to date. So I spend a lot of my time, although I do spend a lot of time training teachers and the tools and AI, I'm more and more increasingly spend time with leadership teams of schools, where we go, right, how do we strategize for what's coming? So we can, and then in fact, I've put this out for free on my Twitter again. I've got a 7-step process for how to do short-term innovation, linear innovation in a way. So what should you do what 7 things should you do over the next year that'll help you get to grips with the technology that's out now? But again, like I said, that's short-term. But the idea is those 7 steps will create a foundation that you can then start looking at non-linear innovation. And essentially that's what a company will do to go, right, not how do we optimize what we're already doing, but how do we change what we're doing? And that's difficult in education, because we're bound by exam systems, we're bound by government regulation. So it's not easy to do that. But the argument I make is we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some of the big players know this. And look at Eton. All right, Eton, one of the most traditional, prestigious schools in the country, last year launched Eton X, which is their own online school. They're not daft. They know that change is coming, and they have to have alternative ways of educating. So, how do we do that? How do we? And I work with leadership teams to go, right, how do we create a strategy that allows for the molding of a new system? And it's not throwing away the old so that we can embrace some crazy future that we don't even know yet. It's a good leader will hold both in balance. Will hold the current system, but will also hold the kind of non-linear, innovative side of a business. And then when the time is right, then shift. And it might just be shifting 50%. It might be shifting it all. Who knows? So I think we're in very interesting times, and I think it's all boosted by. I mean, to be fair, I think it was happening already. It was happening at a slower rate. Some of these places like Synthesis have been out a while, but AI is just going to supercharge the ability of these schools to be able to educate remotely and educate in new ways that, quite frankly, the old way of doing it. And I mean, classroom, I mean, one teacher stood at the front, I mean, rows of seats, I mean, timetables where you do 5. I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to think, in a few years' time, we're going to think, we made small children sit for 5 consecutive hours during the day and expected them to be alert and pay attention. Yeah. Like, as an adult, I don't even think I could do half an hour. So, like, how do we? I think we're going to get to a point where we think, how crazy was what we were doing, and hopefully we've got something much better by
then. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sorry,
no, it's my breakfast was clearly.
I've took your breath away.
Exactly. I just couldn't agree more. I think we're going to look back like, what were we doing? And I think there's a very real risk that children are getting left behind at the moment. They talk about those stats, don't they, that in 20 years' time, half of the jobs, we can't even imagine what the jobs will be in 20 years' time. And so what are we teaching children? We need to be teaching them. Yes, we need to be teaching them just the skills of learning, don't we? And some of those kind of more broader skills that could apply to any kind of career. But it feels like, we're not teaching them things like coding and things like around AI and other things that are just going to be absolutely essential. And
and you know what really annoys me when people say, well, that's not education's job. It's education's job to educate. It's then the industry's job to train people for industry. I don't agree. I think for me, and I know this is very subjective and everyone's got their own answer to this, but for me, I think education should be about helping to prepare somebody for success in life. Yeah. And let's be honest, most people spend most of their days at work. They're all working on something. And so, although, yes, success is going to come from relationships, it's going to come from family, it's going to come from other factors as well. But a large part of success comes from what you do for work. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, it's the job of education to be preparing people for work. Absolutely, it should be about giving them the skills they need for work, and to shirk that responsibility because you've got this idealistic view of education as an end in itself. And I get that. I used to be a philosophy teacher. I understand that education can be an end in itself, but we're not philosophers in ancient Greece who revel and get pleasure out of knowledge. And in fact, few of us might be, but most of us aren't. We want knowledge for another end. We want knowledge as a means to another end, and that might be to have a good career, to have the skills to get on in life, or to be happy. So we absolutely should be providing those skills, I think. And I think we need to do that. And again, you mentioned preparing students for jobs that that don't exist yet. Mm-hmm. I think in recent times it's almost become a bit of a cliche, and to defend it, because I don't think it's irrelevant. I think it's still very much relevant. There 60% of jobs that exist now did not exist in 1940. So we know it happens. We know, and you might be thinking, well, 1940 is a long time ago. But this is going to happen a lot faster, and we've already got big organizations like the World Economic Forum telling us that this is going to happen, and it's going to happen in a huge way over the next decade. And the fact that the majority of us might read that, might not even read it, and just crack on with doing what we've always done is a big disservice to our students, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a cliche to say on a podcast, but I could just talk to you for hours, Dan. Like, there's so many other things that I'm curious about, and like, you know, the different other implications for the older generation and people in different jobs and things like that. But, you know, coming up to just over an hour now, so I guess we'll start wrapping up. But yeah, you might have to come back and do a part 2, I'm afraid, mate.
No, I've enjoyed it.
I'll
happily come back.
That would be great. So 3 questions that I finish with every guest. And then before I let you go, I want you to tell people where they can connect with you as well. But those 3 questions to begin with. A lesson that you wish you'd have been taught when you were younger. What do you wish you'd have been taught when you were younger?
I could pick so many, but just because of where I'm at the moment, it's not the most dynamic one, but I think get up early. Get up before everybody else does. Like, if you get up, like I'm for the past 6 months or so, I've been getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm able to get so much done. And I'm not talking about work. I'm talking about like things that fulfill me. Like I spend a bit of time, again, sounds cheesy, but I do a bit of time meditating. I do a bit of time reading. I make notes. I'm able to slowly get a coffee and just enjoy it. I'm able to think about my day. And then literally then at the start of the day when everybody else is starting their day, I feel like I've achieved so much by even then. You got to go to sleep a bit early. But it's honestly, it's one of the best things I ever started doing. Yeah. So that's what I'll say at the minute. I've got so many, but I'll leave it to that one.
And what's one habit that perhaps, I don't know, you've introduced, it could be meditation, I don't know, but a habit that you've introduced to your life that I could introduce to my life that you think would help me feel great or benefit my life in some way?
I think again, it doesn't sound the most dynamic, but make notes. Like the amount of times, and I'm still learning this lesson, and I'm reading a great book at the moment called How to Build a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. And in his whole kind of philosophy is he gives you a system of how to categorize your notes so that you can then go back and make connections between it. Now, I think like we've been talking in this podcast, I think AI is going to massively help that in the future. In fact, I think if you've got an iPhone, I think Apple have brought out or bringing out an AI tool for their Notes app, which does a bit of this, where it makes connections between what you've been doing in the day with your notes and things. But I think the amount of times I'll sit there and go, or I'll read something on Twitter, or I'll think of something and go, that's a good idea, or I need to return to that thing. And then I just forget all about it. I think creativity comes from connection. You can't create something out of nothing. That's not what creativity is. Creativity is connecting things that have never been connected before. And that's not too difficult because you've got your own unique perspectives and your own unique experiences. So you can connect things that other people can't. But you have to hold things that you've thought of and things you've read and things you've heard in a state where they're readily available to be connected as well. And if you've got a terrible memory like me, that just doesn't happen often. So seeking the assistance of a notebook or an app that helps you with that, I think is vitally important and one of the key ingredients, if not the major one, to finding your way in life, I guess. Because the more you create, the more you find what drives your passion. The more you create, the more you find your value within society as well. So I took that very deep there, but from taking notes to finding happiness. But yeah, I think it certainly helps me anyway.
Nice one. And if you could give everyone in the world just one book, which book would you give them?
The AI Classroom is that's my book, by the way. There's a great book, and I've the name of the author has just gone out of my head. It's called The Startup of You. And I'll just quick. So it's by Reid Hoffman. That's who it's by. Reid Hoffman, the guy who created LinkedIn and has just created an amazing AI bot called Pi, which is, if you can use it for free if you just type in pi.ai, and they've designed it so that it's very empathetic, and it tries to understand you as you're talking to it, and it's amazing. Anyway, Reid Hoffman wrote a book called The Startup of You, where he said, and you're not going to hear this at school, you're not going to hear this in education, but I think it's one of the key life lessons that everybody needs to know is treat your life like a startup company, is essentially the message.
All right.
So, and your life is it's something I've learned quite a bit starting my own business and almost starting my own brand recently, is you have to brand yourself. You to a certain extent, if you want the freedom to have your own business, if you want the freedom to be able to make money and be happy and have the things you want, but also control your life, you have to invest in yourself and create almost a brand out of yourself that offers value, just like you would with a business or with a product. So actually applying those principles to yourself, I think, is phenomenal. And I know so many people who've read that book or read books that are similar to it. Another one is A Company of One, which has really helped me. It's like, how do you create a company around yourself? I think there are people out there living lives that they've always wanted because they're taking on these principles and finding value in the world as themselves, as the product, as the service. And I'm not talking about like influencers. I mean, social media influencing can be part of that, but a lot of people out there, you would never have heard of them and are creating a product or a brand around themselves that is offering a lot of value. So yeah, I wish somebody had taught me that when I was at school as well, but nobody does. Nobody teaches you how to add value. Really,
no, definitely.
It's a shame.
Yeah, the lessons from entrepreneurship are vast, and I think that's a great recommendation. And it makes me think of, another thing, like when you create a company, and I guess you must see what you want the company to be in 10 years, don't you? Like, what impact do I want this to have? How is it going to affect people? All that stuff. But we don't do that with ourselves, do we? We don't think, where could I be in 10 years' time? How am I going to have affected the world? And yeah, I really like that. Like treating yourself like a company.
And before when I was talking about the strategy stuff with non-linear and linear innovation, I use a strategic approach called the 3-box solution to innovation. And that's a great book actually, by Vijay Govindarajan. And he essentially says, right, box 1 is your current system. It's what's working. How do you optimize? An innovation within that box is optimization. So it's kind of what I was saying before. Box 3 is your non-linear innovation. It's looking for, well, how do I change what I'm doing to be agile and stay up to date? Box 2 is essentially where you put the values and the systems that aren't going to work in the future. It's like almost like the bin. It's where you put things. Now, to a certain extent, I apply that to my life as well, because I think right now I've got my current system. I've got the way I work, the way my routines, my practices. I've got my family, friends, and so on. I want to optimize that. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to optimize how I work. I want it to be slick. I want it to perform so we can earn a living and survive. I want to optimize that, but I also want to be thinking, well, what's coming down the line? How might I need to change this so that this unit and what I enjoy out of life survives? So it's a business strategy, but I think it's also building on what you were just saying, Sam. It can be a personal strategy as well.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been great. I've really enjoyed this chat. It's certainly got me thinking about a whole range of different things. So I really appreciate your time. I know you joked about selling your own book, but it's got to be done. Come on, you got to. Where can people get their hands on the AI Classroom?
So I mean, literally everything about me you can find at theAIeducator.io, and that'll give you access. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can access the book. So I've got a best-selling book that came out at the end of March called The AI Classroom: The Ultimate Guide to Artificial Intelligence and Education. It's about 400 pages long. It's huge. It covers a lot of what we've discussed today in terms of strategy and leadership. But to be honest, that's a small part of the book. the main part of the book is the practical guides and how to prompt ChatGPT. And there's a chapter that talks about 40 different templates that you can use for ChatGPT to produce lesson plans, resources, all the way to risk assessments for a school trip. Like, there's so much in there. There's background to this technology, where did it come from? I mentioned Ray Kurzweil talking about the singularity earlier. There's a bit in there about that. It tries to, when we called it the ultimate guide, it wasn't an egotistical, this is all you'll ever need. It was more of, right now, we've tried to cover the gamut so that as one educator can sit down and try to get a view into the history of it. Where's it going? What do I need to do? What does leadership need to do? How do I start using this today? And I can just get a broad picture of it all instead of having to go to lots of different sources. So yeah, you can get that on Amazon.
Yeah, brilliant.
And social media as well. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn and things where I put out things. So, but just search me, you'll find me.
Absolutely. Well, I'll put all of those links in the show notes. So listeners, if you are wanting to get the book and access Dan's resources, they will be in the show notes. So check them out there. Dan, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to staying in touch on X or Twitter or LinkedIn and everything, all those things. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Sam. Really enjoyed it and great to chat with you.
So thank you for tuning in. I really, really hope you found my conversation with Dan insightful. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with your friends, family, and colleagues who you think would find it helpful too. You can also support this podcast by following and rating the show on whichever app you're listening on. Thank you again, and I look forward to bringing you another episode soon.